everyone, it's me Hattie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing Hydrangea Part 2. So that's the house name that I decided to call it. It was a suggestion that my sister gave me, so I decided to call it Hydrangea House. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm probably pronouncing it in the completely wrong way, but I apologise for that. Anyway, so for the interior, I decided to go for something a little bit more traditional. I wanted to go for something that was very old, very rustic, and a little bit medieval as well. We got some new light fixtures which look amazing, so I wanted to use those as much as possible in this build. And I had a lot of fun rearranging those and putting those in. I probably used a bit too many, but I really love them, so I tried to put them anywhere possible. And I did put a little place under the stairs, which you're going to see now. I put a little cupboard under there because I have always wanted to have a house in The Sims with a cupboard under the stairs, like in Harry Potter. I just absolutely love that to bits, and I mean, it's the closest I think we're going to get for a long time, but of course I don't know. Eventually we might be able to put a whole cupboard under the stairs at some point, and it would be really amazing, but I don't know if we can do that. And then I was just looking at the general items that we had for the Sims 4 Get Together because there's so many new items and I hadn't looked through any of these yet. So originally the plan was to build as normal and do the kind of style on the interior which I'd usually do for a Tudor build, and if I see anything that I particularly like on the way from doing that, then I'll just stick it in the build, and that's exactly what I did. So a lot of this was just improvisation. I didn't look through any of the stuff before building this house, so I was building it surprisingly quickly. It was almost as if I knew exactly what was going to be in there. It was really strange, but it was nice too. And I put some flowers in the hallway. And I was just putting some general items around the house as well because that is important for me to remember where everything is, especially with a build with so many rooms. Like this house has got so many different rooms, and I think it ends up with 6 bedrooms. That is an insane amount for a 40 by 30. I think so anyway. Like my mansions on a 50 by 50 hardly ever have 6 bedrooms. I mean, that's really unheard of with my houses. So yes, it's a humongous house, and I had lots and lots of room to put in different bedrooms and different hobby rooms because of how much space there was. And also Tudor builds generally, or I suppose more traditional styled houses, aren't so open plan. So you wouldn't really find a house like this that would be very open plan, unless it's been renovated, of course. But I wanted to keep some really traditional features that could potentially be in a build like this. So at this point I was filling up the corridor and I was going around that area and I was trying to fit in a rug, and that was really difficult for me because I couldn't find a good rug to put in the hallway. So in the end, I think I did find one, but then I deleted it because I just hated it. I just think it looks so modern in a house like this, and I always use that really modern rug, and I just thought, no, it doesn't go at all. I also got rid of the brick colours at the sides of the walls, so you'll see that in a little bit. I didn't do it to begin with though, and everything else in this build, I mean, it was really higgledy-piggledy, my kind of styling of it, because I went through a lot of different rooms. I was just kind of placing different objects in and then I was going back to them, so there was a lot of kind of back and forth going on because I couldn't really decide where to put everything. So there was a lot of that in this build, but I think it was really fun and I did enjoy building this. I mean, it was completely new for me to build something with all these new items, and it was really cool actually. And I was now building the kitchen, so that was something that I was working on there. And I did the kitchen as one of the first rooms that I actually did in the build, which is really strange for me because I usually leave it till last, and I didn't. So what I had the idea of was putting in the chapel kind of half wall. I just really love that idea. And I also found a really old rickety table, which I don't think it's got a particularly nice name. It's called something like the Old Ugly Table. I can't remember what it is exactly, but I only actually found out it was called that afterwards. But I think it really goes with the kitchen, so I did keep that in, and I did go with some different floor tiles to which I usually use. I wanted to do something a little bit special in here, and it's a small room anyway, so I wanted it to look a little bit more detailed, so I thought the flooring was a good way to do that. I put in an espresso machine because I think that the espresso stuff that we get with the Sims 4 Get Together is really interesting, so I definitely wanted to put a machine in there so your Sims can drink coffees and stuff which could be potentially fun. I don't know. But I love coffee myself, so that's why I put it in. And then I was trying to rearrange the whole kitchen cabinets, and it was very, very difficult because I was really thinking about lots and lots of different ideas through this. And in the end, I just left them how they were, and I added some more items into the kitchen. And even though the kitchen's small, I think that it's a very practical room. And oftenly in builds like this, the kitchen won't be huge anyway. So I left it to be quite small, but I am really happy with it, and it does look like quite a cozy room. I think so anyway. And if you did want to expand it, then you could definitely expand it into the dining room a little bit, because the dining room is humongous. I just wanted a really, really fancy kind of medieval style dining room, so that's what I did for the dining room. But we're going to move on to that in a little bit. And at this point, I was putting in the general features to the kitchen. I was undecided on whether to put a bookcase in there because I think that it would be good for cooking books and things like that. So that was what I was really thinking about whilst I was building this, and I was trying to add some items that we've recently got from the new expansion as well. So we've got some lovely, lovely wall pieces which made it into the kitchen, so that was nice. This was a dining room in here, but I did change all the things round. So if you're wondering why it's so brown, it's going to change in a minute because I actually used a paneling colour on the walls, and I was really happy with how that turned out. It doesn't even end up being this colour, so it does change from this as well. But the idea in here was to have a really, really fancy room that the family can all be in. And I think with such a big house with lots of different bedrooms, I think that there would be quite a big family living here as well. So I think that a big dining room would definitely be important, especially as there wasn't anywhere to sit and eat the food in the kitchen. So I think the dining room would get used quite a lot. So instead of having it really elegant, really formal, because even though it is a little bit formal, I wanted to make it a little bit more homely in here. So I added some features that would potentially do that. And of course I added some bookcases. The night doesn't make it look very homely. In fact, I'd be so, so frightened at that. I actually went around to someone's house a while ago and they had a knight in shining armour, and it was just at the front door, and it was the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life. But I think they look really, really funny in The Sims 4, and I love putting them in medieval style builds or Tudor builds. I think they make an appearance in most my mansions, I think anyway. So in this room, I was very, very undecided whether to have a bar room or a hobby room or a study. I just did not know what I wanted. And in the end, I ended up with a study and also a hobby room. I ended up with a lot of hobby rooms in this build. I think I ended up with about 3 hobby rooms because I just had so many extra rooms, so much extra space in it. So that's what I was really thinking about whilst I was decorating this room. And I did put in the really lovely study table. I just love that. I love how high it is, and I like how it looks next to the bookcases. I think it looks really, really special. So that's what I was doing. And I was also trying to decide whether I keep that wallpaper. So that was changing around quite a lot in this build, I will admit, but I think it was definitely worth it in the end. And I was trying to put in something that would be a little bit unique to the build. I was trying to put in a football table or a foosball table. I don't know what people call it. I call it a football table, but I decided not to on this room, or in this room particularly. I wanted to go for something a little bit career orientated. So I thought maybe a chess table would be a better option, and then I was just adding the little details around the room. I wanted to add a picture there, so that's what I did in the end. I added a little picture, and I think I did come back to that though, so it does change around a little bit, but I'm not too sure. And then I had the same problem in this room because I thought to myself, well, I've already had a study, and what do I add in this room? Like, I can't just add another study. It was too small for a bar. I was trying to fit a bar in here, so you can see that. But that wasn't really working out either, so I was really thinking about what would look really lovely in this room. So that's when I came back to this room and I changed some things around. So yeah, I've re-added the football table, so I guess that stays with us instead of the fireplace. So it looks pretty good in here. And then I was thinking about putting in one more item, so I was trying to move everything forward a little bit. So I think I ended up with the canvas in here. I think I put a canvas there instead of putting in a guitar or anything. I did think about it, but it didn't really work with my master plan, so I took that out. And in this room I wanted a bedroom. I just couldn't decide how I would really have the layout of it, because I couldn't decide whether I wanted it being a children's room or just a downstairs bedroom with a double bed. And in the end I did go for a double bed. I did put quite a nice, yeah, I put quite a nice bed against that wall, and I put some side tables there, so they've got some things on by the end, of course. And I just tried to fill it up as much as possible. I tried to finish it off with a painting and some more objects around the room, put the chair in, and I put a TV in because I just think that it would be quite a nice place to watch TV. Why not? So in here, I was doing the lounge now. The lounge was a humongous room to fill up, so it was a little bit of a struggle to really find the right items to fill this room up with because I'd used most items by now and I was kind of stuck for ideas, so I think it works out pretty well. But the lounge does end up being quite spacious and quite nice. So unlike a lot of my other rooms that I do, because I tend to do more cramped rooms, I think the lounge looks quite spacious and big by the end. So then I was going to add a little seating area just in front of the table. I think that looks really, really good, and I tried to put in that little seat really where possible. I tried to put it in as many builds as I build. I just think it looks really wonderful, and the Sims do actually sit on it, so that's quite a nice idea there. Then I was putting in some objects. I really wanted to put in a fish tank, but I just didn't think that it was the right time for me to do that because I thought that it was very, very modern. If we had like an old styled fish tank, which to be honest, I doubt that we'll ever get, but if we did, then I would have put one in here. But unfortunately, it just looked a little bit too modern for this room, so I left it out. I did put in a darts table as well. So if your Sims enjoy playing darts, then they can play darts in this room, which I think is quite a nice feature for the lounge. It's something a little bit unique. So even though it does look a little bit spacious, I guess, it's got a lot of features, got a lot of things to do in this room. It's got another canvas, guitar, even a shrub. It's even got a shrub there. So lots of things to do. In this room, I wanted to do a really simple bathroom, so that's what I was doing. I was trying to think of different plants that I could add to make the room look nice, and I was also adding in a bath because I thought that a bath would be quite nice for this particular room. I was then adding in some towels, and I did actually remember the toilet paper. I did. I remember the toilet paper. I always forget the toilet paper. I always forget to add it, and this particular time I remembered. And I found it as well, so it's always difficult to find, or at least I think it's difficult to find, so I was happy. Anyway, moving on to the upstairs. So this is the upstairs that we're going on to now. There was a lot of space to fill up in this area because I usually have the downstairs bigger than the upstairs. That's how I usually have the house, but I think it's pretty even on this build, so there's not a lot of places that I only had rooms downstairs where there wasn't opportunity to put them upstairs. So there was a lot of room upstairs, and I was struggling to really find good ways to fill the rooms up. So you'll probably see that in a little bit, but I did end up with so many different bedrooms, and I've got a particularly long room in the right hand corner, which is going to be very, very difficult to fill up, but I will show you that in a second because that was actually a bedroom, and I turned it into a bedroom and bathroom in the end because I just could not deal with that size of a bedroom. It was too big and it was taking up half of the house, so that's what I thought I would do. Anyway, so I did end up with a big hallway running down the middle, and I think that looks pretty good for the upstairs. It matches the downstairs quite well, so that's quite nice. And I did go with the downstairs wallpapers and also floorings. I tried to use as much stuff as there was downstairs that I did upstairs. So I reused a lot of items, so that was quite nice for the build as well. So what I was doing is I was trying to recolour the hallway because I wasn't particularly happy with having the hallway all in that panelling. So I did do that with a lot of rooms. I sometimes do that in the builds that I build. I sometimes change some walls, so I have like a feature wall, and I suppose that's what I did with the hallway area. I did have to get rid of that door which I put in. I had no idea what I was thinking because I completely forgot that I put a door above the staircase. So I did move that, and I did do something a little bit strange with that room eventually, but you'll see that in a little bit. So at this point I was just adding the last features to the hallway, just trying to fill it up a bit, trying to make it look like it wasn't so empty, and I was just adding general storage because that would definitely be a thing in a house like this. There'd just be so many places to store things. I don't know what the family would be storing, but they'd be storing so much stuff. So that's what I was doing, and I was trying to make something really lovely of that area above the stairs, but it just wasn't really working out. So in the end I had it all stone, and I just kept it like that with the overhanging cross and the shields with the swords, that's what I just kept within the end. So that was the hallway, and now I was on to one of the bedrooms that I created. So this was just a spare bedroom, wasn't really for the master bedroom or anything else really. I just wanted to have a few options to have spare bedrooms because I didn't know how many Sims I'd have living in this house. Probably quite a few, so this could be a spare room or it could be somebody's bedroom depending on how you'd want to use it. I did put a lot of hobby skill building items and also a fish tank in there because I thought that a fish tank upstairs wouldn't be so bad. I thought that I could just fit one in there, so I did that. And there's a lot of things that could potentially be in that room if you wanted there to be. So that's why I just left it quite plain and simple. The same with this room, really. I just wanted a nice blue room upstairs. Even though I had one downstairs, I just thought that it would be quite nice for a room like this. And I was trying to create a bedroom for an adult male, I think. So that's what my opinions were at this point. I was trying to create something that was a little bit more masculine rather than feminine because I think that the red room may look a little bit too feminine. So I was trying to even it out and create something a bit masculine. And then I was adding some clothes. So someone probably lives in this room, I'd imagine. I don't know. But that's what I was thinking. And I added some more skill building items. So there's a canvas, there's a entertaining microphone. I don't know. I haven't actually used one of those on The Sims yet. I have to do that at some point, but haven't got around to it yet. And I was adding some paneling because I thought that I'd go back to my roots, which I always used to use that paneling colour, so I didn't want to just forget it now that Sims Will Get Together is out. So I did use that for that room. And then I was creating a little bathroom, which I think it looks really, really sweet with the matching rugs in there. So I definitely kept that like that. I was really happy with how that turned out. This room was a hobby room, so it was somewhere else to really relax, have the Sims play the new game that we've got with the Sims Will Get Together. I just really think that looks amazing being there, so that's why I kept that in. I also put in some general furniture, so you'll see that in this build. There's a lot of stuff in that room, but I quite like it, and I was desperate to use this DJ stage at some point. I know that it wouldn't necessarily go with the build itself, but I did have a think about the people that I'd want living in this house, and something that I was thinking about was having a teenage girl or a teenage boy living in that room and having it quite cramped. So after this point I did change it around a little bit and I made it into a teenage bedroom, which I really like the idea of, even though the DJ stand wouldn't necessarily go in this house. I thought that it still looked quite good, so maybe it would. Maybe I can pull it off, I don't know, but I just think it looks pretty good. So I thought that I would try and get that in at some point because I think that it could be fun for the Sims to use. So of course you can change it if you want, and if you did want to change it, you could have so many possibilities for this room. Really, you could. You could even have a baby room. You could even have a baby room. Just depends on what you want. So that's what I was thinking. And I was trying to add some paintings to the walls and different posters because I think the Sims Will Get Together posters and artwork is really great and it looks very teenagery. I just thought it looked really good, so I tried to use that as much as possible. I also tried to get in some more items that were music based because I thought that maybe this person's a little bit obsessed with music. I don't know, but that's what I was thinking at that point. And I was also trying to recolour this area, but it wasn't really working out. So in the end, I did go for some panelling across there to match the hallway. And then I was trying to think about what I would have in the main bedroom of this house because this is the main bedroom. This would be the parents' bedroom or the people that would potentially stay in this room that the parents wanted to particularly impress because it's a humongous room. And I thought about having a dressing room inside this room, but I thought, well, I mean, if we've already got a walk-in closet, I thought, well, maybe if I just included that, it wouldn't be a big deal if I didn't make a separate dressing room. I haven't done a dressing room yet because I haven't really felt the need to do a room like a dressing room because we can't actually use rooms like a dressing room yet. So in the future, if we get items that the Sims can actually change their clothes and make it a little bit more interactive rather than just having a room for the sake of having a room, then I will do it. So maybe I will do a dressing room at some point, maybe in a humongous house when I've got so many bedrooms and I can't think about where to start with it. Maybe I will then, but I really wanted to set myself a challenge and try to decorate this room as best as I could. And it is a humongous bedroom. I usually don't have my bedrooms this big, so it's quite large, but it's got a lot of features inside. It's got a lot of things that the Sims could potentially do. I put another TV in because I thought that it could potentially be quite nice for the Sims to come in here and watch TV, and I do like that as well. I like that the Sims can go up to the bedrooms and they can sit down, they can sit on the sofa, they can sit on the little settee. I don't know what you call it. I don't know, but it's like the chair without seats that's next to the bed. They could sit on that and watch the TV easily. So I did like that room within the end and I was happy with it. This was the bathroom. So all the bathrooms in the house do have a very similar theme to them. They all look very, very similar. So I was happy with how this room turned out. I think that it looks really nice, and I still kept some of the traditional features in the rooms, like the paneling colours and also the concrete flooring. I thought it looked pretty good for a build like this. So I was happy with how that room turns out. And now we are on to the bedroom. So this is another bedroom which I created. This could potentially be another main bedroom if you wanted to have somebody in here that could be part of the family that could have quite a large room. This one I couldn't really decide what to put in it, and I was experimenting with colours because I was trying to make sure that the colours went with that bed, because the bed is a very strange colour. It's a dark minty green kind of colour, and it's very, very difficult to find furniture or wallpapers or flooring that would potentially go with that kind of colour. So I did change it within the end, and I did go for a more dark bed. I think I went for the grey version of that bed, or at least I'm quite sure that I did. But I was going around and I was adding the paneling, and I was also trying to think about the actual features that I could put in this bedroom to make it a little bit unique to the others, because I was trying to think about the items that I'd used so far and try to avoid them. So I wanted to mix it up a little bit and put in some unique things. So I did put in some items of furniture, like the storage table, so where you'd put your clothes and things to the side of the room. I don't think I've ever used that before in that colour, so that was a real change for me. And I was again stuck to what to put on the wall, so I think that I did go with television in the end, and I did put something there, because even though I have used a TV in the other rooms, I think that in this room it would look really nice because it's actually somewhere that's facing it. So that's what I did. I was also trying to get in that bookcase, trying to figure out where that could potentially go, and I did put that there in the end. I think it just suited the room quite a lot, and I was happy with it. I was also very happy with that window looking out. I think it looks absolutely stunning, so I can't wait to take some photos of the Sims in that room. I think it's going to look wonderful because of the bay window. I think it looks really nice, so that's what I was doing. Then this bathroom, I was trying to make a little bit more traditional than the other bathrooms, so I did use that sink that we've got with the new expansion pack, and I put a bath in because showers can sometimes be a little bit modern, especially for a build like this. I think it would have a bath that would be separate from the wall, so that's what I was doing there. And I was also adding a place where I could put some books and things, and that is the end of the build. So I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all for my next videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.